let's hit some cars. Bring that chin down, look over the shoulder, drop your ear to that shoulder, circle all the way around, back to the start. Reverse that process. We're going to go 3 each way here. As with all of our cars, make that circle as big as you possibly can, with avoiding pain and then adjusting any other joints above and below. So in this case, I want to get more cervical rotation, but I don't want to move my spine below. We're going to do the same thing at spine. Same thought process. The joint above is our neck right now, and then our hip is keep both of those set. So I'm moving completely from the top of my tailbone to the bottom of my neck, making a circle as big as possible. If you're having a hard time not leaning or pushing your hip opposite, you can actually do this seated, which you'll notice from time to time in our classes we might go to kind of reinforce that position, creating what they call a fixed point that you can rotate around a full axis of rotation. 3 each way as well here. As per always, avoid ranges of motion that may cause pain or discomfort. Moving on, we're going to hit into scapula. Arms straight out in front. Remember, they can go forward and back, but not up and down. So start off squeezing your shoulder blades, elevating your shoulder blades, pushing your shoulder blades forward, and then pulling them back down, pushing them forward again, elevating, pulling back, pulling down, pushing forward. We're going to go 3 circles with our shoulder blades, getting as much motion as I possibly can. I'm going to do a quarter turn for you, keeping that torso locked in. So a lot of times we'll see people get here, arch, then keep your ribs down and just move isolated through your scapula. Moving on, we're going to hit into our shoulder. Start off by rotating that arm out. We're going to come up and across our midline, keeping that arm pulled out. Once we hit a block, you'll feel it. You're going to start rotating that arm. We're going to keep rotating until I come all the way back around to my pocket. When I'm at that pocket, I want to do a quarter turn so you can see this. This arm is facing away. When I go back, hit a block, slowly unravel, and then come back to start. We're going to go 3. Making that circle as big as you possibly can. Controlling that joint above. So that would be our elbow in this case, not trying to bend or move in any kind of particular way other than making that shoulder circle as big as possible. And that joint below being our rib cage. Transitioning to the opposite side, you'll notice there's going to be a right-left discrepancy. Like, oh man, my dominant side gets a little bit more range or has a little bit more ability to control at that range. And I think it's a really good opportunity to go through that body's asymmetrical. And if we choose to load you bilaterally, we need to make sure that we allow for that joint to move to not cause pain or dysfunction. This is always a really good active assessment to show why we do everything asymmetrically, so we can get that range from one side versus the other, or get some sort of metric on what that range is so we don't load it inappropriately. We're going to transition down to our elbow. We're going to start off supinated, or we're holding sup. We're going to flex that bicep, rotate that arm down, and then reverse. We're going to go 3 each way here. We always talk about this position when we come down to supinated grip stuff, so if you're really struggling with things like chin-ups or a supinated grip pull-up, we really want to get that supination in there at the forearm, finding it, fixing it, and then start loading it. 3, and then we'll transfer into our wrist. On wrist, elbows are pointed 90 degrees. Imaginarily, I'm holding 2 cell phones or I have lasers pointing up to the ceiling. I'm going to start off pulling my fingers to the ground, bring my hands in, adjust, rotate out, and then come back to the start. If you're struggling, we can either hold on to one wrist, or we can make a closed fist, really try to lock in that forearm position. And we're thinking the rationale for holding onto the wrist is if I'm really struggling to keep my forearm in position, If I'm really struggling to keep my hands long, then we go to a closed fist. We're gonna go 3 each way there, and we are completely aware that this one doesn't have a ton of range, but that's why it makes it that much more important to go ahead and hit that. When we're done with that, we're gonna move on to hip. Find something stable, a wall, a fence, top of your couch. We're gonna bring that knee up, keeping that torso locked in, rotate, pull out. As I pull that knee out, I wanna keep my belly button, sternum pointed straight ahead, rotate, push back and away, keeping this fixed. Bring up both knee, heel, slowly unravel, back to the start. We're gonna go 3, and then we'll switch to the other side. Lock in your position, create stability, get to that sticky part or that part that's hard to move, slow down. Transfer to the other side. Again, we're aware that we're gonna have symmetry and lack thereof. Just brings more of a reason to train things one side versus the other. Three on this side, and then we're going to transfer down to the ground. So if you have a towel or a yoga mat, go ahead and place that on the ground next to you. We're going to go ahead and make our way to the ground. Locking in the upper leg. Set yourself up so I have all that motion that I want coming below my knee. So I'm going to rotate my shin out, extend my knee up, rotate that shin in, come on down. We're going to go 3 in both directions, up and down. And then we're going to lower our guard to our shin and do what we did on our ankle. And if you're keeping track at home, this is the exact same cue we gave if you were struggling to keep your forearm locked in. We're just, for your wrist, we're just doing that now before with our ankle. So I'm grabbing my ankle, I'm locking in that shin, and I'm gonna rotate as big of a possible circle as I can around that fixed shin. Really trying to stretch that outer part. Again, finding that safest, greatest range of motion you can hit. 3 clockwise to counterclockwise, and then switch sides. We're going to transfer over to that other knee. Lower guard. That's our cars. All right, every damn day, we're gonna start off on the ground. We got some pails, we're gonna do some bird dogs and dead bugs. It's kind of a way to extend our movement prep. Looking for control, looking for stability. Biggest thing here is just getting ourselves prepped up for the big meat and potatoes, 10x6 single arm swing. All right, so on pails, we're gonna set up here on the ground. We're gonna line up our arms overhead. If you have a lot of flexion, meaning that you can bring this arm a ton off the ground, just set yourself up on some books. We're looking for as close as we can get to that end range, but if you notice it just says pails, meaning that we're going to try to create pressure downward into the ground. So we'll line up here. If you got a little bit more flexibility in the shoulder, by all means stack yourself on top of some books. If not, you can stay right here and get some good work in this. On the pails, I'm going to say deep breath in, drive your arms down, hold that for a 3 count, and then release. All right, so let's set up on the ground. Take a deep breath in, push the air down, create pressure, and slow ramp. 20%, 40%, 60%, 80%, 100. 1, 2, 3, release. Let's get set up again. We're gonna go back into our pails. 20%, 40%, 60%, 80, 100, 3, 2, 1, and release. We're gonna go 5 reps. Pack the air, 20%, 30%, 40%, 60, 80, 100, 3, 2, 1, and release. Here we go, 2 more reps. Pack the air, 20%, 40%, 60%, 80, 100, 3, 2, 1. Relax, 1 more rep. Pack the air, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Cool, we're gonna get into a quadruped position for bird dog. On bird dog and dead bug, mind you, which you're gonna get here as well, we're thinking keeping your ribs and your pelvis in the same position as I move my arms and my legs. So we're gonna reach with our right arm and push back with our left for 10, and then we're gonna switch sides. So deep breath in, set that pelvic position, push that heel and hand away from each other as far apart as we can get for 10 reps. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Switch sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We're going to transition to our back. We're going to do that same exact pattern, just in the dead bug. Now we're thinking about keeping that back as flat to the ground by controlling that rib position relative to the pelvis. Pull your knees up, start at 90 degrees. Place your arm out. We're going to reach with our right arm and left leg for 10 reps. Keeping that back glued to the ground. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Switching sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's the first round. We're going to go through that again. We got 2 rounds of the pails, 2 rounds of the bird dog, 2 rounds of the dead bug. Cut. If you need a break, pause it right here. Cut. Let's get our second round in. So we'll get a little bit more work in on this pails. We're going to ramp up to 100%, hope for a 3 count for 5 reps. Try to make that 100% as intense as you possibly can without pain. All right, so it's set up. You might have some more range in that shoulder, so if you want to stack on top of books, please do so. Let's take a deep breath in. Pack the air, 20%, ramping up to 40, 60, 80, 100, your safest, greatest effort for 3, 2, 1, and release. Pack the air, ramp up, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100 for 3, 2, 2. Release. Pack the air, start ramping, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 3, 2, 3. Release. 2 more. Right, start ramping, pack the air, 20%, 40%, 60, 80, 100, 3, 2, 4. Release. Last rep, pack the air, start ramping, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 10, 2, 5, 5. Make sure you went to a 10 count. Here we go, we're going to a bird dog next. Line up here, remember control your ribs to your pelvis, lock it in. 10, left arm, right leg. 10, right arm, right leg. The right arm, left leg. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, switching sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Dead bug on our back. Knee up, heel up, arms out. We're gonna go 10 and then switch sides. 3. If you're having problems maintaining pressure, create a closed fist, create more tension in your feet. 7, 8, 9, and 10. Switching sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Nice. All right. So movement prep is done. Now we're going to transition to actual work today. We got 10 rounds of 6 each side, single arm swing. On the single arm swing, same mechanics of the hinges we always do. Shins are vertical, torso travels down to the leg, hips got to move posteriorly. As we stand up, we want to come up to about 90% extension of the hip. Is when we start seeing people reach really, really high and they start leaning back. We take a lot of compression and push it down to the lowest part that's over the ground. And that becomes my lumbar spine. So we want to stay stacked and keep the pressure on our legs. And as we go down and up, it's about getting that extended position at the hip, not at the lumbar. On that single arm position, we apply this thing called a corkscrew. We're rotating our arm in the direction I'm going to create more pressure and control in that shoulder while I'm moving. So as I go down, that thumb goes up. As I go up, that thumb goes up to allow for stability here, but control and movement fluidity up here. So that corkscrew combined with good hinge mechanics might not be as important as we get through the first couple rounds. When fatigue starts to creep up, we got to make sure that we have those things locked in. The final component for safety is always start and end on the ground, and that's a really underrated factor. When we start every movement, we need to create tension before we proceed moving, and as we lower it down, we need to maintain that tension because those bookends of the movement are where the injuries usually come. It's not necessarily the second rep, it's the first rep. So if we can make that first rep really, really good by creating tension in our hand, locking in that shoulder position, going right into your swing from the start, and then as we transition down, we want a escalator finish, not a elevator finish, meaning that it's a slow, gradual descent like a plane coming down on a runway, as opposed to a helicopter landing. Okay? All right, so 10 sets of 6, single arm swing. I'm gonna start up here, keep up if you can. If you need to pause at any point, please do so. Let's see what we got today. More to go. Rest periods. If you have a heart rate monitor on you want to get it back down below about 100 beats per minute. If you don't, you should get down to a normal RP communication base of like a 2 to a 3. Then go get it. The faster you get it done, obviously more indicative of fitness. If you only have one kettlebell that's relatively light, by all means, go faster. Get a little less rest in between. If you only have one kettlebell that's really, really heavy, just try to do your best at managing recovery so you can get through this in an effective manner without changing your position. Round 2. 2 rounds in, if you need some water, by all means, help yourself. Just make sure that you keep in position, locked in. What we find in these elongated things with minimal stuff is focus and attention to detail goes up, right? So as fatigue goes up, my level of execution needs to go with it, because that's when I'm most at risk for injury. And we always want to make sure that we're putting safety above everything else. It doesn't matter how well scripted the program is or how well thought out the exercise selection is. If we're not lifting with really good technique for every single rep to the best of our ability, we're not going to get the most out of it. But more importantly, is we're putting ourselves in a vulnerable position. We don't ever want to get hurt at the sake of some program or sake of some exercise. Always putting safety and performance above everything else. Let's get this round 3. Set your position up, good hinge, start on the ground. Transition to a side shot so you guys get a little different angle, see what it actually looks like with the shin staying vertical, and see the trap line of the torso. So by all means, please stay in the same position. I just want to give you guys a different angle. So round 4, crank it up. If your heart rate's pretty high, just pause and wait a little bit longer. Obviously, you know I'm in great physical, mental, spiritual, physical health, so I can go forever. Here we go. Okay, keep your breath nice and tight, keep moving, keep shaking it out in between sets. You know, the goal is to accumulate as much volume with very simple things over a period of time. You'll notice that in other days we have a lot more pushing and pulling. The goal though is, if we don't have the ability to add a lot of weight, we need to add volume, right? And I think this is where it really comes to an important thing of understanding programming and principles, is everything has to have some sort of progression with it. Whether we add more complexity to the exercise, we add more intensity, which I think is what we're most familiar with, of adding more weight in the bar, or we can add volume. We can do that by adding sets, we can do that by adding reps, we can do that by the combination of the two. We can do that in other ways of making things more compressed, right? We're gonna do 6 each side for 10, so we have 60 reps in the right, 60 reps in the left. Can I get that done in a faster manner? Or can I pick a segment of time and escalate the actual total volume in that period of time, right? You got 10 minutes, accumulate as many rounds as possible. And the beautiful thing about having progression and periodization in mind in regards to this is that never gets lost sight of. But if my only one rationale to load people up is to add weight in the bar, I'm pretty limited, right? And this is where that value of understanding those principles come into play. Round 5. As I was going through that, a common question we get is, what do I do with my other hand? So thinking about it in terms of layering, right, we actually get to the point where we do a hand-to-hand. So we always want to potentially get that hand ready. The other thought is, if this arm's moving and I'm focused on this, potentially losing power here. So creating a closed fist, like you would do like if you were boxing, like I'm throwing a jab, that same thought of creating tension here to create that reciprocal action. As I'm pushing, I'm pulling back. That same thought here as I go into a swing, create tension, especially if we're really trying to learn this side, right? Like when we're trying to learn something, we want to remove things that could potentially be inhibitory or competing, right? So if I'm all over the place with this and I have poor control or struggling here, you know, we have 2 things we can always control, really our breath and then our hands on our feet. So I guess 3 things, but if we want to classify hands and feet as one thing, feet are dug in, other hands locked in, and I can really let this arm move under control, timing, and actual speed and power. So as we're learning this, where this hand goes is respective of the ultimate outcome. I will eventually get here with a lot of people, especially in class. But for today, if we're really struggling with this corkscrew mechanic, bring this hand in, create a closed fist, treat it like I was throwing a punch, and I want to pull back as much as I'm pushing forward. That same thought here is as I come up, I'm locking in that position, and I'm allowing for that arm to come forward. Let's get into this round 6. Really big emphasis on whatever I'm doing with this free hand. Let that happen by creating a closed fist so this arm can do its job to start. Alright, so other things to think about when we're doing this is that breath as I go down. I'm collecting, I'm getting to that end range of my hinge. So I want to create this compression in here by pushing the air down. So I'm in this bottom position, energy is not getting leaked out because I've created so much intra-abdominal pressure. As I come up, and I get through that part where I'm not under stretch of that tissue back here, I want to release my air, right? So as I come down, as I come up, and you'll see a lot of really experienced kettlebellers in the world really focus on their breath. And there's that harmony between what you see in martial arts. Like you'll see that throw and breathe, that kind of mechanic of when do I need to time my breath to get the most power, but the most control, and that combination of the two. And I think the same thing's parlayed here. If we can learn to maximize our breath, when we get to these later rounds, we have a lot more in the tank that we didn't know we had. If you run for extended periods of time, you know, just control your breath and you can get through pretty much any duration. That same thought process is here. We're going up to 10 rounds. You need to control that breath to help you manage the last couple of rounds effectively with really good power, position, and focus. All right, round 7. Lock in our feet position, hand. Let's get this breath really dialed in. Getting close here, getting close. Again, if you need to pause, give yourself a little bit of water, whatever pace you feel like you need to hold, make sure you get through this with great position and great technique. Right? Our focus always is safety, 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 and then performance, performance, performance. Right? So above all else, keep yourself in good positions, control your breath, control your joints when you want them to be controlled, and then move them when they want to be moved so you have the right output every time. Right? The goal here is a good hinge mechanic with a single arm load, that doesn't change, right? So as I get towards rounds 8, 9, and 10, my grip might be giving out, my shoulders might be getting tired, my hips might be getting tired, my cardiovascular system might be getting tired. No excuse. Technique is technique for safety and performance. So if we can't have told that, we need to get more rest in between. All right, you guys ready? Let's hit round 8. Set up, position up, get your breath locked in, whatever you want to do with the other hand. Let's go. Two more rounds. Two more rounds. If you want to get a quick walk around, if you have one heavy kettlebell and this is getting pretty hard on your forearms, grip is always a great governor of anything you want to do. One of the things that we always get asked is why we use so much fat grips. And you can see it in kettlebells. It's control, it's stability, but it's this thought of like, from here to here to here to here to here to here to here, where is the most vulnerable spot, right? Like we're moving through a hinge pattern. Do I have control here to here? Is this the limiting factor? versus that limiting factor, and what is the risk reward? If this gives out before this gives out, what is the risk versus the reward of the two, right? We can obviously tell, like, my forearm's being tired and that's slowing me down is gonna have some sort of stop point that's well before anything happens here, and that's a good thing, right? If this gives out, the risk is incrementally higher, right? But if I give out this first, the risk is down, right? So as long as I know that this is a governor and my ability to control this, it helps protect this, we can start to see the bigger picture of picking rate limiting exercises that still get us the outcome of velocity or force or capacity, but we're doing it in a safe and effective manner. And the other aspect is your cardiovascular fitness. If you're gasping for air and you're really struggling to recover, it's also a really great area of improvement. And we think about your ability to control whatever implement you're holding with your hand or your feet, and then the other side of it too is your ability to recover between these bouts of intense exercises is really going to mandate your overall long-term projection of your goals. And this thought of can we increase mobility, can we increase your fitness, can we increase like things in other planes of motion in this period of time are all really good kind of concepts to get through. So when we get back to a barbell, when we get back to dumbbells, we have a lot more potential built in. Let's get this round 9. We'll have one more talking point and then we'll finish this up in round 10. All right, here we go. Hands, feet, breath. Hopefully you got a good sweat going, heart rate's up elevated, grip's being taxed, position control, staying focused. If you need to pause before we hit this last round, let's make this last round the best round we've had all day. It's a culmination of everything we've done from technique, position, just pure grit and toughness, something we need a lot of right now. Let's push through, let's finish this last set, let's make sure it's our best set, all right? Lock in our feet, control our breath, let's get it. That's it. Give someone a high five in the air, no social contact, that much distance between. Thank you. Appreciate you guys. Let's finish off with breathing and have a great one. All right, so we're gonna go into breathing. We want to focus on a couple things here. When we look at breathing, we want to create a good respiratory mechanic, and depending on your orientation, there might be positions that you feel a little bit better in. Either you're more inhalation focused or you're more exhalation focused, or breathing in or breathing out. And not to get too much into the nuances and the complexity of it, we just want to find that position that's really going to be a positive feedback loop for you to get more out of your breathing and more out of your subsequent movement. So there's 3 options we can go with here. There is an inverted position where we can go on our knees. If you want to elevate a little bit higher with some books and maybe some towels, if you have some balance pads at home, this would be a good opportunity to use it. The more elevation we have with our knees, the better. We're going to collapse down to our elbows. We're just going to go into our breathing. Now notice on this one, it creates more forward and back motion, which if you have more of a preference towards inhalation, you might feel a premature block, which is the point. We want to focus more on the alternate, the exhalation. So that's one position, inversion. If you notice that you're a little bit wider in orientation like myself, you might want to go inverted. All right, the next one would be just a simple 90-90 position. So without grabbing a chair, just imagine I have an imaginary chair or my couch here. I'm going to rest my back and my legs on there. You actually might want to pull down on your heels to get this slight elevation and turn that pelvis into that position. That recruits a little bit more hamstrings. And we're just going to go right into our normal breathing like we did there. If you're more of a narrow type, like if you're like a little bit longer and taller and skinnier, you might feel a little bit better in that one. And that actually might reverse it, right? So that position that we're really good at pushing air out, we might have to focus on taking air in, which is what we want in that one. And the final one is just very simple, lying down on your stomach, crocodile breathing. And you might just want to do that just kind of almost a meditative purpose where I just want to relax and get into that position and just focus on my diaphragmatic breathing. And all these positions, it's breathe in through the nose, breathe out through the mouth like I'm blowing through a straw. If you actually have a straw, by all means, please use it. If you have a balloon, that's another really good option to do that. We're just looking for whatever position gets you the best breathing mechanics, gets you the best recovery, so we can come back and train hard the next day. Whatever one you want to do, just hold that for 2 minutes, and we'll see you in the next video.